Hi everyone, Kent Larson here from Stereoloon. I want to give a background on why I'm doing this channel, this blog, Stereoloon here, and for that I want to give a little bit of background. I grew up in Denmark in Scandinavia, and a country that's very much into hi-fi and sound. And so I grew up in an environment like that, and the little town I grew up in was really into it. So a lot of my friends and myself, of course, was spending all of our money on hi-fi equipment. And being a teenager, you had limited resources. I had work after school. I actually had several jobs and made pretty good money, so I could afford some. It wasn't totally the bottom of the barrel, and so, but far away from the high-end audio that that people probably tend to think that that's what they need to buy in order to get a really great experience. But it starts way earlier than that, and that's what my channel is all about, is to help whoever's interested in getting a music experience in their home. There is just as great as a live performance. In some cases, I will say that it's better. If you like music, there's refined in the studio. Refined gets a really bad rep these days because now we think about food and all kinds of crap that we put in the food that then ends up being an unnatural product. But in the studio, you have a sound engineer. There is very much into what they do, basically like an artist. And so you have them, and you have a really good environment being the actual recording studio for the propagation of the sound. So you can create something really beautiful in the studio that you can't create live. And that's not to discount live at all. I'm not trying to do that. It's just that reproduction of sound from a media, being a CD, a download, a record, a good old-fashioned LP. Lots of great products today made on LP. I should probably not use product anymore. It makes it sound like something that's not artistical, something you would pick up at the grocery store. Anyway, uh, so so that's the whole premises of Stereoloon. And why now? Why all of a sudden wake up from the 80s and then talk about this stuff? Well, it's because the market is booming with all these fantastic products all of a sudden. Our friends over in China are really getting into the real uh, sound aspect, and along with that, the English is also producing some extremely fair equipment. And here in the States, I mean, it's just a lot of fantastic products at a very reasonable price. I mean, my first review that I'm putting up, or I have put up on my YouTube is this Muse Audio DAC. It was $50 on Amazon, and that's your source of music, because you can hook up your computer that you already have, and you have amazing sound. And back in my day, in like the late 80s, you're looking at least, if you wanted like some decent sound, you're looking at $500 for like a turntable or a CD player. I mean, and I know that, you know, anybody that's my age, about 40 years old, that remember back then, can attest this. That will probably claim that, nah, you need to spend $1,000. But I will say, certainly to even get like into something that just have remotely what's called a dynamic range for like a really nice sound, you needed to spend about $500. And so that today is available at a much lower price tag. I'll say the $50 there for this Muse Audio, that will give you something better than at $500 back then. So now when you look at inflation, and I mean, anyway, you can get really far today, but you can also get really far behind. And people are thinking like, yeah, I know my Bose system sounds so great, and it was $500 for all of it. But then I'm like, nope, nope, nope. That stuff is dead as far as the propagation of sound. Micro speakers, there's just not the room in the build to have a nice propagation of sound from these drivers. And the drivers are too small to not have any kind of breakup. So behind all this is like a lot of digital alterations in order to create this frequent so frequency span that throughout your room, a normal room, will have a very even response, which sounds okay, you know? There's some engineering there for sure. But problem is that there is no real liveness. All the cues of the real sound has been just kind of washed out. So, you know, if it's background music, great. You know, sure. But if you want an experience in sound, you need to stay away from these kind of systems. The more advanced and the smaller and all that, there is a trade-off. There's always a trade-off. And so that's just that. And then also today, there's so much great stuff going on as far as the quality of downloads. Now you can even buy something called DSD downloads. It's a type of file that Sony once designed for their studio recordings and for their tape reels to store it digitally. And so it has amazing features as far as the sound of a digital media. So, you know, not to discount what's called PCM, which is what we mainly are listening to from CD players and so forth. But certainly what we need to cut away at this point, because we have bandwidth, we have a storage room that costs nothing. There's no reason to listen to MP3 anymore. Because I want to just quickly tell you, and I have a lot of this on my blog, but real quick, MP3 is 10% of the original sound. It's a compression. It's a compressed file that's just taking what is it that you can hear at first glance. Without removing anything, how much can we remove without you noticing right away, like this split second? And that's what it did, and they came up with that 90% can be removed, and you won't just see it right away. Problem is that sound is full of all these wonderful overtones that gives you the full experience, the depth of the music. There's a lot of time cues in the music that gives you a big picture of the sound. And the name is Stereoloon, and I'm gonna get into something deeper, something beyond the psychoacoustics that essentially the perception of sound, because your brain is in there too. You're taking in the sound in through your ears, but ultimately it's your brain that's processing all this and getting the experience. I think there's something beyond that, that the waves themselves have a cleansing effect to you. I'm actually pretty confident on this. Um, I'm gonna touch a little bit upon it, but mainly we're gonna stay within the real world. I think the other thing is real too, but probably a lot of people will argue that, and that it's not. But we're gonna stay in the real world on the equipment, and please, if there's anything that you would like to get into as far as the science of sound or the science of anything within the hi-fi world, please post below and I'll do everything I can to get into that. So yeah, that's pretty much the premises of Stereoloon, and I hope you find this interesting, and we'll stay and see what's coming down the pipeline. Thank you for watching.
Boo-doo, book-a-doo-doo, book-a-doo-doo, book-a-doo-doo-doo-doo, boo-doo, book-a-doo-doo, book-a-doo-doo, book-a-doo-doo-doo-doo.